Dugout Dad's local sports podcast where our skills are questionable.
but our spirit is unstoppable.
We want to appreciate everybody joining tonight for episode 5. Jonathan, episode 5 of the Dugout Dad's local sports podcast here. Um, our producer, Matt Inyard, had some other things to do tonight, so I guess I'm going to try to produce and run the show tonight, Jonathan. So this might be a little tricky. Uh, but we want to start off like we always do. We want to thank our sponsors, Kobe McKinney with Underwood Realty being our title sponsor this year once again, and then hashtag Hollies and Be the Gift for our Player of the Week sponsorship, and then Infinity Promotions, who sponsors our backdrop and our banners that we use here on the show.
And Michael, before we get started tonight, this week has been a heavy week. The 24th, anniversary of 9/11, the senseless killing on a train, school shooting, and then of course we had another senseless shooting in Utah of Charlie Kirk. And sports kind of puts it into perspective and kind of gets our mind off of things. But I'd be remiss if we didn't take a moment to remember all of this. And there is evil in our country, and sports divides us, as we know. And we have our teams, we root for our teams, we pick our teams. But at the end of the day, after that, we need to remember that there are differences of opinions, and it's what made our country our country. And it's okay to have a difference of opinion. And I just wanted to take a moment to say those things, and keep our country in our prayers and our thoughts, as it's going to be difficult over the next little bit. We don't know, you don't know from one day to the next what other tragedy that we're going to have to endure. So I just wanted to say that. And again, if there's people out there that are struggling with, mental health or whatever, I'll reach out to me. I'll talk with you. I'll talk to you, and just to have a shoulder to lean on. But again, just wanted to say that. And again, prayers to all.
Well, here's the biggest thing too, Jonathan. I know we're a sports podcast here. We don't really get into politics and religion a whole lot here, because there's everybody has their own thing, right? But you are to be able to speak and feel how you want in this country without fear of getting shot or something like that. Um, but it is what it is, right? So, but we like I say, prayers to the country, prayers how's it going, but let's go talk about some sports stuff here tonight. So
yeah, absolutely.
We'll move on, and we're going to talk about some sports things tonight, and we're going to talk about Friday night's football games with Smith County going up to Westmoreland and losing another game, 3 in a row. And we'll talk to Coach Dyer about this when we get on to the show. But going up to Westmoreland and losing another one, 40-8, and Jonathan, we'll talk to him about it. We don't feel like we played very well from start to finish in that game. It looked like we had a little trouble defensively stopping that wing T offense. Wing T, gun T, what they kind of call it there. We had a time stopping that offense Friday night, and offensively, we showed signs of good things. But then once again, we'll talk to Coach Dyer about this. The penalty bug it hits us once again. And especially down in the first in the first quarter there. Westmoreland's driving, it's third down. They throw a long pass into the end zone, and we break it up. We call pass interference. So once again, giving Westmoreland a first down. So we'll get into all this with Coach Dyer eventually as well.
Yes, I definitely want to talk to him about a few things. And again, it was just tough night again. Some injury bug kind of jumped up and got us. So be anxious to hear what he has to say.
Yep, and moving over to the Gornsville side, Liberty Creek comes into the jungle, and Gornsville just puts a whipping on them, right? Gornsville looked dominating. Watched that game a little bit while we had the delay up in Smith County and in Westmoreland. So, Gornsville once again shows, a pretty good football team. They're 4-0. They look pretty dominant on the defensive side of the ball. And then you saw in the stat line that we looked earlier that, had a couple of guys come back from injury. And, right now, Gornsville looks like a pretty formidable opponent for anybody that walks in there, they're going to play against.
Absolutely. And, you look at Liberty Creek, bigger school, a 4A, if I'm correct on that, 4A classification, comes into the jungle, has a hard time, looking at the stat sheet, it's full of Gornsville, just total domination. So Congrats to them, and they do look like they're a formidable opponent for anybody coming into the jungle or them going on the road.
Yep, and that'll move us over to our scores of the week. If you want to go through and run through our scores of the week.
Sure. So we had Beach, of course. Caden Powell broke the all-time Beach pass record, passed for over 2,700 yards. They beat East Nashville 22-19. Jackson County with a big 49-7 win over Red Bowling Springs, taking Jackson County to 3-1 on the season. Cannon County 3-1. They beat Community 49-8. Lebanon, Coach Chuck Gentry undefeated 4-0 with a big 21-3 win over Mount Juliet. Macon County whips up on their rival, Trousdale County. And, of course, Macon County now 4-0 on the season, 44-7. And, of course, our two games, you had Gornsville, 27-14 wins. Gornsville goes to 4-0 on the season over Liberty Creek. And then Westmoreland, they go to 2-2 on the season with a 40-14 win over Westmoreland. And then on Thursday night, of course, we had our junior high team beating Macon County 40-8.
Yeah, and you look at, we're going to bring Coach Gammons on from the middle school. So we had a pretty good night middle school wise. Macon County comes into town, and we talk and you hear all this stuff, right? And we heard Macon County's announcers 2 weeks ago on the radio station, saying, hey, this is the next 4A state championship team right here that these guys are on the field. When they come in, and I'm not sure that they thought we might punch them in the mouth like we did, and we really did. I think from start to finish, we had a pretty dominant performance in that game. Macon County never really got on track, and they really couldn't stop us offensively. And our defense showed up. But we'll talk to Coach Gammons more about this here in just a bit. But I think Gornsville had the week off in middle school this week, so Gornsville didn't play. They will play this upcoming Tuesday, and I think it starts their playoffs, if I'm not mistaken.
And Michael, I was at the junior high game, and again, I was impressed with the defensive performance by Smith County. It looked to me that Macon County was bigger than we were up front, and they had a couple of kids that did push us off the line of scrimmage at times, but it wasn't just like they were blowing us on the line of scrimmage. They had a kid that was probably, he was taller than me, and he was like maybe 6'5", maybe 260. And he really wasn't a dominating force on their line of scrimmage. So, that's where we hear it all the time. You got to win that battle up front. And to me, Smith County had more athletes. Again, Colton Jenkins has a great game. And there was a couple of times the Macon County players had the angle on him, and he just run by them. So great performance again by him and every one of the Owls and coming out with that big, huge 40-8 victory.
And Jonathan, we'd be remiss if we don't talk about our Tennessee Vols yesterday, who come out and playing Georgia. Georgia comes into Neyland, 102,000 people there, a full checker Neyland atmosphere, and then Tennessee comes out and loses the heartbreaker with a chance to win the game, 44-41, and loses in overtime. After Georgia kind of runs two plays in overtime and wins the game, right? But Tennessee had chances to win. But you look at Tennessee's offense and come out in the first half or the first quarter actually and could not be stopped. 3 straight drives right down the field, scoring touchdowns, 21 points, ready to roll, right? And then turn around and then they lose it at the end of the game there.
Right. And for me, you can look at the Max Gilbert as you can put it all on him. And I'm not going to do that because I felt like he was he had the big eyes. And I said, I was sitting there watching. I was like, the moment is too big for him, but he's not to blame for the loss. There's several opportunities that Tennessee had. And look, you put up 500 yards against a Kirby Smart defense and put them down 14 points on multiple occasions. You feel pretty confident in your effort in what you're doing. To me, it looked a lot like the 2022 Alabama game. We were throwing the ball down the field.
Yeah.
We were completing the deep ball. Again, Joey Aguiar, kudos to you, kid. I mean, for your story is going to be one to tell if you keep playing like this at this level. And I'm so proud that we've got you and you're here and Nico is not. Again, Nico got his coach fired today. But man, a very difficult, heart-wrenching gut punch that. And again, I really liked what I heard from Aguiar after the game. He took ownership.
He did.
And that's what you like to see from these young men, take ownership and learn from the mistakes. We talk about it all the time, and we don't want to lose a bunch of games because at the end of the day, that's where your rankings get. And let's be honest, we just want to be in that top 12 at the end of the season. And right now, this looks to me as a playoff contending team. If everybody can stay healthy, we've got to get the two corners back, Ricky Gibson and McCoy back. And this is a very good Tennessee offense, and I think our defense is just going to get better as the season progresses and we get healthy.
Yeah, we'll Coach Gammons in a lot of him in just a second, and we'll talk about the other team on West End, who actually is now 3-0, beats a top 50 or top 12 team in South Carolina. Now they're 3-0. Finally get into the top 25 at number 20. We'll talk about them toward the end of the show. We'll go ahead and bring Coach Gammons in, and we'll start talking about some middle school football here.
How's it going,
Coach Gammons? Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can.
My voice might be a little out of it. I got into it at the game yesterday.
Coach Gammons was in Neyland yesterday, so he was there for that. But Coach, we appreciate you joining us, and we appreciate you helping us out here going remote tonight. We had just a little couple things going on tonight, but we appreciate you joining us tonight. Well, let's talk about a little bit about Thursday night's game. Macon County rolls into town. You would think they were the odds-on favorite to win that game just for all the talk and everything that's around our conference. And they come in and another outcome, right? We had a great outcome where I felt like we kind of controlled the game from start to finish. But I'll let you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was. It's one of those things as a coach, you normally don't say that you're surprised by things, but genuinely I was. The way, especially after, losing to Upperman on Monday night and, how we responded on Thursday was unbelievable. I think the guys after Monday night really kind of looked at themselves in the mirror, it kind of seemed like, and I told these guys, I was like, there's, really one or two ways that the rest of this year can go. You can lay down and feel sorry for yourself, about what happened, or you can take a chance to answer the bell and, really realize this season ain't over with, because things can happen in this conference, and they do all the time. I've seen it happen. This year. And then when I was with Macon County, some things happened. So I was like, hey, you're not out of it. And sure enough, we answered the call. We made a few adjustments defensively, and it all seemed to mesh well. And I was really proud. And it's just a really team effort out of everybody. I thought this was not one guy. I think everybody did their job. They talk about all the time how our line's not good up front. I think that was by far the best night our line had. So I was really ecstatic for our guys on Thursday night.
So, Coach, for me, there was a little bit of little added side piece here where, you come from Macon County. That's where you grew up,
right.
So talk a little bit about that and how, everything transpired there.
It was definitely bittersweet, and a lot of the coaches that coach over there, some of them actually coached me while I was playing, and one of them I graduated with, and they told me after the game, they're like, I have one of my buddies like, hey, now you don't have to put that extra couple touchdowns in on us and all that. And I was like, we kind of needed the points for the playoffs, so what's got to do, we got to do. And they're just like, man, you just whipped us our tail physically. And it was as funny as I seen on Facebook, one of the players' parents from Macon County had said, it was almost like they knew our offense and they knew how to stop it. I kind of laughed at that. I was like, well, you probably wouldn't be wrong. So, but no, it was awesome. I mean, it's just another game, but at the same time, it also means something as well. I still got good relationships with people, over there. I still talk to them from time to time. But it was definitely awesome. It definitely meant a lot, to me to get that win. But we're on to bigger, better things, and that's what we're focused on now. So.
Yeah, and you look at you
Now,
think about it. Right? I'm from Gordonsville as well. You think about those games when you're coaching against your alma maters and in the school that you grew up in and you graduated from. There, it does mean a little bit more, right?
Absolutely.
It means a little bit more to you. But on the flip side, at the end of the day, you still have ties there, and I still have ties in Gordonsville and stuff like that. But
Yep.
we talked about a little bit. We did go up to Baxter and we lost Monday night. We didn't talk about that, but we go up to Baxter and we lose our first game of the season. Don't feel like we played our best game that night at all. I think Upperman kind of, I guess, hit us in the mouth a couple of times. We kind of didn't know how to react to that. And, we talk about it all the time, well, I do anyway, that Monday night's just not a good night for our middle school team for some reason. But we go up there and we lose that game. So you're right. The Tuesday and Wednesday practice, we talked about it this week, was probably some of the best practices we've had this week. And then it rolls into Thursday night where you look at some of the stuff here, Coach Jenkins, as Parker said, that he had a really good night. He rushed for over 100 yards and threw the ball a few times really, really well. And then a fake punt for a long touchdown. Then you have Jaden Agee, who has a kickoff return and then makes a heck of a play right at the end of the half to take the ball away from a kid for a touchdown pass there. And then, Jimenez has a defensive touchdown. But you're right. It was almost a really the best team effort we've had, even though we've won 6 games. I really felt like it was the best team game we've had all year long.
No, it definitely was. There was not one guy I felt like didn't do their job on Thursday night. I think everybody answered the call, and I'll talk about Monday night a little bit. It was, one of those games that, the ball just never bounced our way in that game that night. It was just a very odd night, and partially, I probably put a little bit of that on myself. I told the guys that it was a big week, and it was. There's no doubt about it. There was 2 big games, a lot of stuff on the line. And I probably put a little bit too much on them, telling them, what it meant. Because like I've told you guys, they play better when they play with confidence. When they have confidence, they play better, they execute better. And maybe a lot of that's on me, but also at the same time, we had an opportunity in that game. We're up 6-0 right before halftime. 3 timeouts, and normally with 3 timeouts, with this offense, you're going to give them an opportunity to try to go down and score right before halftime. And unfortunately, we fumbled, and then we had a few offsides penalties. But these things didn't go our way that night. It just never felt like we had. We were always behind the 8 ball. Every single minute it felt like. But and then Thursday night we turned around and it was a completely different team. And we told the guys, we're like, if we play like this the remainder of the year, we're going to be hard to beat. But it's up to you guys to decide how you're going to play and how serious you're going to take it from here on out. But I really love the attitude from Tuesday all the way through Thursday. And I hope that we can maintain that through this week and then hopefully through the playoffs. So.
And Coach, speaking of that, this week is the season finale, the regular season finale, and the win on Thursday kind of sets you up pretty good for a playoff spot. Kind of touch on that and what you got coming up on Thursday, and from there moving forward.
Absolutely. Avery Trace historically in the past, Avery Trace is one of those teams that makes you nervous. They come into town. They do a lot of unorthodox things that you don't normally see for middle school football. I can remember when I was with Macon County, they would used to get diamond sets. I mean, they would throw stuff at you that you normally would never see at the middle school level. But they lost a lot off last year's team. Their runner-up season, they brought back some guys. And, at the beginning of the year, looking and watching them, they were hanging in ball games and they were competing. They actually, I think they started out 2-0 actually, and their quarterback got hurt against Macon County. And it's just like ever since then, Avery's had a really hard time kind of getting their feet up above them, and it's just but they're still an opponent. They're still an opponent that we've got to face on Thursday night, and you can see Monday night we don't show up, then you don't get the benefits of a win. So it still is important because we still got to win. We still got to take care of business to be able to make the playoffs, but we're looking like we're in good shape. We still have an opportunity for the number 1 seed. As of right now, we're sitting in the 2nd seed, but I'm looking at it as right now, if we're in the thing, that's all I care about, whether it's 1 or the 2. I just want to be in it. We told our guys, we don't care what it is. We just want to be in that thing so that way we can compete for what we've set our goal for this year. But we're definitely going to have to come in and play. able to trace. They got a few good players. They're not decently sized up front, but if we play like we did Thursday night, I think we can take care of business like we did. So
Yeah, and you look at it. We should have talked about it. It is the finale. We don't know if it's a home finale yet, but of 19 players on our football team, right? We got. I think you told me we had 19 eighth graders on this team. Maybe the last time these guys get to suit up in a middle school uniform to go out and and to get us hopefully get us another win, and hopefully we can secure that number one spot, because then you get a home playoff game. But outside of that, if you go down the line and you look at our 11 starters on both sides of the ball, they most of them play all both ways. And we get Caden Wilkerson back this week, who's a great addition on our defensive line. But talk a little bit about these eighth graders a little bit. This is their final home game and what they've meant so far to our program.
They've meant a lot, and to me, they're sort of a foundation of what we're trying to build here. We're trying to build, taking an approach from where we start from middle school, and really building the basics there, and building all the way up to the high school. And this group has been so special. They have, from this all the way from the winter till now. They've really worked their tails off, and what they've wanted to accomplish, and they would tell you, last year didn't go the way that they wanted it to. They're so used to winning through the youth league, and it was kind of out of the ordinary for them. They go 4-4, or I guess it was 5-4, whatever it was with the bowl
5-4, yeah.
game, and so, but they felt like that they could have gave themselves a better shot, and they've really worked hard to get to where they are now, and I'm just really proud of them, because no matter what happens, whether we win a championship or not, I think that they've really set the groundwork for what's to come, and I really think that they're going to help build this program. Even at the middle school level, I think you're going to see a growth in numbers just from what they were able to do, until now. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see what the next 4 years has got for them, because I genuinely think, that if they stick together, I think a special thing can happen in Smith County, because of just what they bring to the table all around. They're a good group. They play together. Sometimes they want to ring, sometimes you want to wring their neck, but at the same time, they mean a lot. And I'm excited to see what they have to come for the rest of this year, but definitely for the next 4 years at the high school level.
Well, Coach Gammons, we appreciate you jumping on with us and talking. Good luck this
Absolutely.
week and going 1-0, and look forward to talking to you next week.
Yes, sir. Hey, I appreciate y'all, and that sounds good. I'll be there. I'll be on here like normal, trying to, last few weeks, but before last week, I haven't been able to hop on, but I should be good to go now. I enjoy doing this, so I appreciate you guys.
Coach Gammons, we
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. See y'all.
All right, Coach Gammons and Coach Dyer's in the lobby here. We will go ahead and bring Coach Dyer in. Go ahead and get him started since we're in here. Coach, we appreciate you joining us tonight.
Hey guys, appreciate y'all, man. Like I said, enjoy doing this, enjoy being on it, man.
Yep. So, Coach, we'll start and we'll talk about Friday night. And once again, an outcome that we didn't want to happen, and it did. We felt like, we go up there and we play Westmoreland. You look at it on paper, it looks like we got a pretty good shot to play these guys, right? I just feel like we didn't come out and play our best football game. Once again, we say this every week. You see signs of really, really positive things, and then you see that little stuff that's nips you in the bud and knocks you back a little bit. But let's talk about a little bit about Friday night and what you thought.
Biggest thing is just consistency. We've said that week in, week out. We're not near as consistent as we need to be on both sides of the ball. For every uh, drive we have on defense where we either force a 3 and out, or we get a couple of TFLs, negative yardage plays, to put them behind the sticks, and then we force them into a situation they don't like. We're just not consistent enough in creating those opportunities of getting the ball back to our offense. And then offensively, just way too many missed assignments, way too many MAs, breakdowns in our pass protection, in the run game, not following your rules. If you're a gap down backer and you step out, that's not your job. You're supposed to step your inside foot, not your outside foot. You're supposed to get on your track. If you got a combo to a linebacker, you've got to eventually come off that first level defender to pick up the linebacker instead of letting him run through free. So way too many missed assignments, way too many just MAs. And once again, we're not doing the little things right. And it's very frustrating. I know it's frustrating to the players. It's frustrating to the coaches. It's frustrating to the fans. And like I said, we did not play a very well game. It's probably the worst game we played to date. You know, it just comes down to, you know, we got some guys that they've got to figure out, you know, are they interested? Or are they invested? You know, are they going to be comfortable with being uncomfortable? You know, are they there during practice to do something, or are they just there for something to do? So that's what we got to find out with some of our guys, and what what's to come next. You know, we're still a good football team. It's still a young season. You know, outside the game against Friday night, we're just a handful of plays from being 3-1 instead of 1-3. You know, but it just we got to execute. That's our thing. You know, it. I know it always gets caught up in, well, they should have called this, they should have called that, should have done this, should have done that. But there's no magic play call. There's not. You know, whether it's offense or defense, there's no magic blitz. There's no magic coverage. It's did you execute or did you not? You know, everything is drawn up perfect on a whiteboard. Whereas, like, hey, we can score on every single play. We can, you know, get a tackle for loss every single play on a whiteboard. But then it comes down to Jimmy's versus Joe's. You know, was your Jimmy better than their Joe, or your Joe better than your Jimmy on that play? You know, did they do their job? Did you do your job? And there was too many times where we did not do our job. You know, we did not execute to the best of our ability, the best of our level. And like I said, no magic plays. You could call any play out there, and you got to execute it for it to work. And we didn't do that well enough, both sides of the ball. You know, not offense, not defense, and even special teams. You know, we had a rough night special teams as well. Um, and you know, just anytime we had a little bit of momentum, we'd shoot ourselves in the foot with either another penalty or a turnover, bad snap, something like that. You know, something good football teams, focused, dialed in, locked in teams don't do, especially in a week 4 football game at the midpoint of our season. So, you know, we're going to have to go back and we're going to have to reevaluate some things, some positions, and that's just what we got to do as a staff. You know, we got to be better too. It's you know, we got to be more connected. We got to be do a better job of trying to get guys in successful positions. You know, as a coach, that's our job. Find ways for players to be successful and use their skill set for what they can do. So, you know, we got to do a better job of that all around the board.
And coach, for me, you know, I saw several. You call them MAs, missed assignments. You know, in the blocking scheme, and you know, for me, blocking you can't just wake up one day and say I want to hit somebody. You know, it's a mindset that these kids have to take on themselves to say, you know, I'm going to line up against this kid. I don't care if he's 3 times my size. I'm going to hit him every time, and I'm going to make him feel it every time. And for me, I see some weaknesses there that we need to be tougher on the line of scrimmage.
Oh, definitely, yeah. We got to be more violent. It's a violent football. Football is a violent game. It's meant to be played violently. It's meant to be played aggressively. It's meant to be played with passion. And we did not do any of those things Friday night. We did not play with much violence. We did not play with much aggression. And, you know, we did not play with much intensity. So, like I said, you know, some of our guys got to figure out, are they going to be physically tougher, mentally tougher to play in football games like that? And like I said, if not, then we, as a coaching staff, have got to find those guys that are willing to do that with on our roster. Because, you know, it's like we tell our guys every week that there's no reinforcements coming. You know, we can't sit there and, you know, pull so and so from here and here and be like, okay, this is the guy that's going to play for us this week to get the job done. We have to coach up the guys that we have right now. And if they're not cutting it in this position, find another position or find someone that can do that better for them. So, like I said, that's on us as a staff, that we have to do that if we want to get what we want out of this season. And it's the players' job to execute that plan once we get there. And like I said, we were not very tough Friday night, but we know we can be. You know, early in the season, you know, we knew in the preseason, in our scrimmages, we were playing physical. You know, we were playing fast against White County, against York, against DCA, against Watertown. You know, Watertown just beat Giles County, and you know, and we were in control of that game for most of the night. So we know we have the ability to. It's a mindset, like you said, that our guys have got to find, to where It doesn't matter what the play call is; they execute it to the best of their ability, whether offense or defense. Everybody thinks play calling is just on offense. It's the rep. It's everything you do on the field, offense, defense, special teams, execute it the best of your ability. And it's like I said, if you're blocking down, you're stepping where you're near side foot, play side foot, you're getting your hat across and you're getting movement. Okay, you can't be high. You can't hit a guy in the chest and expect to down block him. You can't step where your outside foot trying to block down the inside gap. If you're pulling the kick to the right shoulder right. You can't try to kick with your left shoulder or he's going to cross your face. Things that we practice and things that we did not execute well, that's what you're talking about, just lining up. And you can't just say, hey, I'm going to hit that guy and I'm going to block him. It don't work that way on the high school level. You can get away
Right.
with it at youth league, maybe middle school. Middle school is where you starting to kind of get those guys learning a little bit more and they become more entrenched in some fundamentals. Okay, because your guys are more equal. Youth league, you still got one or two guys that are just more mature physically, whatever. It's easier for them to say, well, I'm just going to hit that guy in front of me because I'm bigger, faster, stronger than him. At the high school level, you got 15 to 18-year-old kids where you're going to have to use technique. You're going to have to use the technique that you're coached to do. You can't go out there and go rogue and just say, hey, I'm going to hit that guy and hope the best happens.
Right.
You're going to have to use your technique. And, we didn't do a good job of that Friday night. So we're going to have to do better this week getting ready for Jackson County to where we use our fundamentals more, we use our technique more, and hopefully we'll do a better job of that.
Yeah, and you look at, you look at, I mean, there is positives that, you see, I kind of look at it from a different perspective because, I have coached, not the high school level, but you coach and you look at it a few different ways, but you look at some of the highlights you have, like, Dylan Raines bust a few long runs there, and has a few good possessions for you. Riley makes some good reads and good throws, sometimes. Now, he did have a couple picks that, didn't look the best, but then you look at Gage Gibbs, who has almost 100 yards receiving, and goes up and makes a couple of long plays, just goes up and out jumps the guys for to catch that ball. But you have some guys there, I feel like, that are in place that you guys can still win football games. And our season's not over, right? It's far from being over. You
Yeah.
haven't even started region play. You start region play this week,
Yeah.
so that's what you look forward to. Yeah, you may not win some non-region games, but we really need those region games, right? So your season's far from over. And I think some of the critics outside looking in don't really see that, right? And that's why you try to look at it with a level head, especially if you look at it from the coaching aspect of it, is our season's far from over with.
Oh,
You
yeah.
still got plenty of football to go. You played 4 games, and you still got 6 to go with 4 region games. So our season's far from over.
Oh, definitely. That's everybody wants to get tied up in every single game every week, but you want to win every game. That's our mantra. Go 1-0. But at the end of the day, we've not played a single region game yet. And as far as playoff seeding and whatnot, those are the games that you put priority over everything. You want to win every game, of course you do. But hey, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. And at the end of the day, if you're not the one winning, you're the one losing. So, like you said, it's a young season. Right now, we've still got a lot of games to play. We're just getting in the region games this week. But like going back on what you talked about with players, I'm a strict believer in players over plays. You want to get the ball to your best playmakers. You want to use your most talented players to the best of their ability. And you mentioned some of those guys that you get the ball to, let them make plays. Dylan Raines, you mentioned he had some good hard runs. He's still learning the position. He just played a few middle school games and he's in his fourth high school game. He's not even played 10 football games in his life. So he's still learning the position. Um, he's just got to be more consistent with running behind his pads. And he's not the only one. A lot of our guys have just got to get tougher on those short yardage runs, being able to get behind their pads and get north and south. Every one of our backs, our quarterback, everybody, our receivers, they got to learn how to tuck the ball and just get north and south instead of keep running lateral. And, they keep wanting to just try to outrun everybody, maybe like they did in youth league or middle school when they were maybe a bigger, faster, stronger athlete than everybody they played against. But at some point, you got to get behind your pads. You got to put your head down and just go north and south. You're going to if there's not a hole there, you got to make a hole. So we got to get better in that aspect. And as far as throwing the ball downfield, yes, we create some big plays when we need them, but we've got to be more consistent in putting drives together. Think more first downs, taking time off the clock, controlling the momentum of the game. Big plays are great. They create momentum. They create scoring opportunities, and they can kind of take the wind out of the sails of an opposing team. But if you can't consistently move the ball throughout a game and you're just relying on explosive play here and explosive play there, you put a lot of stress on your defense. And with our defense, it's still a relatively inexperienced young defense with the amount of juniors and sophomores we have on it. And so that's a lot of stress to put on them. So we've got to be more consistent in our decision making processes, in our blocking, in our playmaking. Everybody loves big plays, but we've got to be more consistent in how we generate those big plays with getting more in the run game, being more consistent in run game. For every 9 to 10 yard play we have, we've got a negative 1 to 2. Okay. And you don't want that. You can't get behind the six and get off schedule. So big things like you said, just be more consistent in both phases of our offense, throwing the ball, running the ball, pass protection, run blocking, and just getting the ball into our playmakers. And that's understanding the plays, understanding the concept, understanding the scheme, understanding the why. And we've still got some guys that have got to pick up on that. And you don't want that 4 weeks into the season. You should be a well-oiled machine 4 weeks into the season, and we're not there. That's just a fact. That's truth. So we just got to have a little bit more all across the board, out of our staff, out of our players, everybody, everything. And this is a good week to start and get the ball rolling on that going into region play.
And Coach, talking about that, you've got a 3-1 Jackson County team coming in. They have scored some points this year. I'm not sure. I don't think they've scored a lot on some real good competition. But talk about the challenges that they bring. It looks like maybe a different little Jackson County team than we're used to.
Yeah, they've got a winning schedule right now. I believe they're 3-1. Some of their competition is a little suspect, but at the end of the night, they're a team with momentum. They've got a little confidence in them because they beat those teams. It don't matter who you play. Whether you beat them or not, you still have to execute to win those games. And they've been executing at a high level, regardless of competition. They are in a winning position right now, so they are feeling some mojo. Coach Loftus does a good job with the guys that he's got. They're kind of in the same position as us. They're still a relatively young, inexperienced team. They brought a lot of people back from last year. And I think they went 5-5 or 6-4 last year, so they know how to win. They expect to win those ball games, and they know that this is a region game for them as well. And they're fighting for playoff seeding too. So we're going to get the best that they got to offer. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at us, well, expecting to win that ball game because they got a little confidence built, and our guys have got to get some confidence behind them, and that get back to our winning ways, and be able to be more consistent in how we put a game together. And once we can build a little momentum, get a little consistent together, and get on the right track, we can have a good week. But it starts with practice. We got to practice with passion. We got to play with passion. We got to practice with purpose, and then we can carry that over into a Friday night. We can't just decide to flip a switch on Friday night and practice for no purpose, practice like a bad team, and then say, okay, well, we're going to flip a switch on Friday night and get it done. It don't work that way. So we're going to have to practice with a lot more passion this week if we expect to do what we want to do and how we want to be, and win a region game against Jackson County.
Yeah, and Coach, good luck on Friday night. Hopefully we get that. We know it's homecoming. There's some festivities. Hopefully that don't, kind of get the guys not worried about. We got to go 1-0 this week. We got to start region play on a good note, which takes me into our Ask the Coach segment. So we do have a question this week, and it's for Ask the Coach, and it talks about your special teams a little bit, your special teams formations that probably a lot of people hadn't seen traditionally for Smith County, And I know Coach Hackett's doing your special teams, but that was the question for Ask the Coach is talk about a little bit of your special teams when it comes to 2-point conversions.
So with our 2-point conversions, we don't want a defense to ever get relaxed. It happens a lot in high school where they give up a touchdown, they're feeling kind of deflated, and they think it's a playoff. Like, okay, they're going to line up for an extra point. They're going to kick it. We're just going to kind of stand here and catch our breath. We don't want guys to ever feel comfortable, the opposing defense. We got 2-point plays that if we want to keep our offense on the field, we can line up and just kick an extra point. Bradley Pickett's done a good job this year. We got a lot of faith in him. but we want the opposing defense to constantly be on their toes. If we can steal a point here or there, it happened in the Watertown game, where we put a couple of 2-point conversions on the board and kind of it forces the opposing offensive hands. If they do score, now they've got a choice to make. Do we need to keep up with them with 2-point conversions, maybe not get it, or do we keep kicking ones while we're getting twos and we're stealing another point here or there? But a lot of it comes from, we know we've got athletes on the field. We know that we can put them in situations where they can be successful and steal points. But the biggest thing is, like, we don't want an opposing team to ever feel like they get to take a play off. And it starts on those extra point units right there. Whereas, like, if we can get our guys out there, as soon as we score, we train them. It's like, hey, fist bump you do to score, hurry up, get lined up. And maybe the opposing team burns a timeout, to get lined up to it. Maybe they didn't work it that week. Then also, it gives another team more stuff on film that they have to work. So, there's a lot of things that we do or with a purpose for that, and Coach Hackett does a good job with it.
And
And
Jonathan,
Coach,
you want to talk to Coach Dyer about our player of the week?
I will. And Coach, before we get into that, is there any update on the player who got injured Friday night?
Yes, Gabe. I don't know if I can say his name.
You don't have to.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I
Yeah,
about slipped up right there. I know we
That's
got a
okay.
lot of rules and regulations about that, but he is doing well. Me and our trainer went to the hospital that night to check on him, be with him. He had some family there, and we had another coach there, and also our athletic trainer, or sorry, our athletic director was also there. And we stayed with him most of the night into the early morning. I think I got home around 3 something in the morning, and they got home 4 something in the morning. So he was discharged that night, but no surgery was needed at the time. They're going to reevaluate later in the week if they need surgery. They were able to reset his injury, and like I said, I can't think of all the information I can give or can't give, but
Right.
he's doing good. He's doing better. A lot of prayers for him. Power of prayer,
Absolutely.
helped him out. So we're excited for him to be on a healthy end.
Good deal. Just prayers up to him and continue getting well.
Yes,
So
sir.
our player of the week this week is Lucas Cornwell. If you want to talk about Lucas, he had a great 10-yard touchdown catch in the back of the end zone for us. So talk about him and how he's progressed this season.
Lucas, he's a young guy. He's just a sophomore, but he's one of our bigger players. He's a 6'6", about 220 pounds. We try to use him in a lot of different ways. He's a hard worker. He loves the weight room. He's gotten a lot stronger this off season, preseason, even in season with our in season training. He's got deceptive speed because of how long he is. He can generate a lot of separation with his strides, but then just his body in general. It's a long, lean target. He's got the long arms. It's kind of hard to not see him in a crowd. And, we got a lot of formations where we like to try to cover him up with either oversets or Chinas and trades. And, it kind of helped Friday night when we went with our unbalanced sets. Westmoreland was lining up the way we wanted them to with our tackle oversets and having him over there just because he's so big. It's like, hey, we're going to call strength over here. So, we had a 2x4 formation with 2 guys to the weak side, 4 guys to the strong side. But we got Lucas over there to the 2-man surface, and they're still calling their strength to it. So we were getting some good looks. We just couldn't execute our blocking on play side. But, they lined up to what we wanted to, what we thought they would. But he's a hard worker. He's a good teammate. We're still trying to find ways that we can get him the ball. But he's got a great catch radius. And, he's not just a great football player. He's a great person, a great student. He's got a 3.5, 3.8 something GPA right now. He had a 4.0 as a freshman. So he's a great student athlete. And we expect a lot more things out of Lucas in the few years to come. Because I said, he's just a sophomore now. Having him as a junior and senior, you can actually start to build stuff around him. And he did have a good job Friday night hauling in that touchdown pass. We like him as a blocker downfield because he's such a big body. And anytime that we can try to get him the ball in open space, he's a big target to bring down. So he's very deserving of that award, of that accolade, and hopefully a lot more to come.
And as a defensive coordinator, he's got to be a nightmare to have to cover for sure.
Oh yeah, like what are you going to do with him? You're going to jam him at the line. You're going to over or under him. You're going to bracket him. You're going to double him. A lot of things have to go through a coordinator's mind when they see him on film.
But Coach, we appreciate you. We appreciate you what you coming on, and good luck in going 1-0 against Jackson County this week. But before we let you go, and I know you don't hear a lot, you get a lot of critics, you hear all the stuff. But myself, Jonathan, and Matthew, we appreciate you coming on and what you do for our show and what you do for the community. We appreciate everything you do for us. So we just want to tell you how much we appreciate here at Dugout.
Yes.
Well, guys, I appreciate y'all and everything y'all do. Like I've told you before, the people that criticize the most usually invest the least. So, that's just how it goes. But guys, I appreciate everything y'all do for us, for our teams, not just the football team, but for Smith County Athletics. And it's just so cool and so fun what y'all do. Like I said, I hope we get to keep doing this for years to come. I'll always want to be a part of it. And anything I can do for y'all guys, y'all just let me know.
Appreciate it, Matt. Good luck
Thanks,
this week.
Coach.
Guys, appreciate y'all. See y'all.
And like I say, we do appreciate, man. We appreciate all those coaches, right? Any coach that wants to come on and be on our show and help us out here on our show. But, and listen to him, there is a lot of criticism right now. He knows this. He hears it. He hears all the talk behind him, all that coaching staff does. They hear all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And, you always think winning solves everything. But, in small town athletics, it really don't, right? You still hear the critics. You still hear everything, winning or losing. But, I do feel like, and he said it a couple of times here, that if we got a couple of guys, once it clicks for them, they have the athletes in place to win football games. They have the athletes in place to go a long way. Once it clicks, once they buy into it, like he even said, they got to buy in. You got to, trust the system, come in with a purpose. And I think once they do that, you'll see this team start going the other way.
I do too. And again, it's, they're a couple of 2 or 3 plays away from being 3-1 themselves. Now they did not play a great game against Westmoreland. We know that. It's wash the tape and let's get ready this week. But like you said, there's a couple of kids that need to, that light switch is going to go off, and when it does, it's going to be a positive thing for Smith County moving forward. And of course, region play starts this week, and the season really starts this Friday night, when it really and truthfully matters. It's like, are they well oiled coming into this? No, but the injury bug has hit them some. They were without some starters Friday night, and hopefully, those guys will be coming back pretty soon. And again, you do get a Jackson County team who is historically not one of the stronger teams around, but again, has put up some points this year, and they'll be a formidable opponent this year. So
they will, and I'm sure, they're going to go in this week, after this game, they're going in this week with a different mindset when it comes to practice, right? You either come in, you get ready, or you don't, but once again, good luck to those guys, and congratulations to Lucas Cornwell for being the Dugout Dad Player of the Week, sponsored by #Hollies and Be the Gift. So Lucas, we'll come see you one day this week when we get our new shirts in and present you with a shirt.
And guys, that's, if you're out here and you've been one of our Dugout Dad Player of the Week, we have our shirts ran low on sizes, so we've ordered some. So as soon as we get those in, we'll be out to you and get your picture and everything. So,
and Jonathan, let's flip to the other side of the river for just a few minutes here, and we'll talk about Gornsville before we end our show and with a couple other things. But we'll talk about Gornsville for just a couple minutes here. And Liberty Creek comes in. Liberty Creek is a larger classification school, probably double the size of what Gornsville is, and they come in, and Gornsville just takes it to them right from start to finish. And you look 27-14 at the end. But if you look at the stat line with the stats, and once again, before we start that, we appreciate Shay Hale, Terry Collins, and the Carthage Courier for giving us our stats every week.
Yes.
You need to forget to thank those guys, but without those stats, we wouldn't have some of the information we have. So we thank Shay, if you're watching, or Terry, whoever's watching, we appreciate you guys for doing that for us. But if you look at the stat line, Gornsville almost doubles Liberty Creek in stats, right? So, Gornsville kind of took it to them offensively and defensively, and you saw a few guys have big games this year that not had the big games, right? Jay Foster had a big game, and Lee Skurlock has a big game, and it looks like, they're getting healthy again. You saw Jamario Williams had a couple carries in the stat line, didn't have a lot of yards, but just to get him back on the field has to be positive for Gornsville.
And Michael, looking at it, I was talking to somebody earlier today. It's a balanced attack right now for Gornsville. They're doing it through the air. They're doing it on the ground. You look, they had 33 carries for 217 yards, and then they have another 159 in the air. So it's getting it done in a balanced way that we've talked about in the past, that they're controlling both lines of scrimmage in a great way, and they're playing really good football right now.
And you look at it, you look at some of the guys. You got Lee Skurlock, who's a senior, and Jay Foster, who's a senior, and I think Jamario might be a senior as well. But you look at down the line, the rest of the stat line, it's all young guys. You know, you got sophomores, you got juniors, you even got Bryson Johnson, who's a freshman, with a 30-yard receiver catch the other night. You know, so you look at the young guys they got coming up as well. And it looks like Smith County as well. You know, they both have a lot of young talent. We've talked about this for the last 2 years. Now, Gordonsville did graduate about 12, 14, 15 kids last year. Smith County only graduates 6 this year. But Gordonsville does graduate a little heavier senior class after this year, but they still have young talent coming through and going to continue to build these two programs throughout the rest of the time.
Absolutely, and it's going to be real exciting in the next couple of years to see the progression of this young talent when they get to be juniors and seniors, and which leads us to our player of the week for Gordonsville. You talked about him a moment ago. It's Lee Skurlock. Lee had a great ball game. He had did he have 1 or 2 touchdowns? Just
he had 1 touchdown.
Yeah. 1 touch. 10 carries, 95 yards, and a touchdown. Looked to carry the load pretty much on the ground right there. So Lee, congratulations. I'm sure your coaches are proud of you. We're proud of you, Michael and I both. We've seen you grow up, and just continue the good work you're doing.
Yeah, and you look at Gordonsville. I think they go to Cannon this week. Is that what they go?
Yes,
to
Cannon. Yes. Go to Cannon.
Go to Cannon. Their first region game of the year as well. They go to Cannon. Jackson's at Smith County, but then Gordonsville goes to Cannon to get in the region play. You look at Gordonsville sitting at 4-0 right now. I think they'll be probably in the top 5 in Class 2A, probably after the win against Liberty Creek this week. So everything is on the right track for Gordonsville, and hopefully they can keep it that way.
Absolutely, and I don't see anything changing there. I think Cannon County, I think that they're 3-1 also, just like Jackson County, but I think it may be a product of kind of their competition has not been that great. So Cannon County they'll be ready to play come Friday night. I bet my senior year, we went to Cannon County and played baseball, and they're always ready to play teams from Smith County.
Yeah, and Gordonsville looks to go out to be 1-0. You want Smith County to be 1-0, and you really want. We've talked about it every single show. You talk about that Week 11 matchup, right? You want it to come down to the Gordonsville Smith County rivalry game, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we want, and we hope both teams can get to that point. Hope we can run the gauntlet of the region games. But you look at Trousdale County, who went and played Macon County, who played with Macon County for a couple of quarters. But then Macon County kind of took over there. But, Trousdale County, still an up-and-coming team as well who can shock a couple of people. You don't really know. So, I know we're talking about Gordonsville, but you just look at the region itself and hoping our 2 teams in our county can stay undefeated to see each other in Week 11.
Right. And, Michael, getting into some of the matchups next week before we get into our Beat the Dad segment, you got DeKalb County at Macon County. You got Jackson County coming to the hole, playing at Smith County. You got Lebanon at Station Camp. Clay County goes to Trousdale County, Gordonsville at Cannon, and then you got Beach traveling up to Upperman, which that should be a really good matchup.
Yeah, and good luck to Gordonsville going down to Cannon County this week. Hopefully they can go 1-0 in the week as well and get another win down there. And, I'm sure Coach Jackson and his group will have all these guys ready to go down there against Jackson County or Cannon County and have a good game there. But you're right. So it leads us into a special segment that me and Jonathan come up with that, man, this is so fun for us, right? And, if you're not watching live, you go back and watch the show. Please join us every week to do this. But we call it the Beat the Dads Pick'em contest, right? And we talked about this last week. In the Carthage Courier, they used to have the Pick'em, right? You go in there and you send it in, you mail it in every week, and so time has changed, ages has changed, and now we can do everything online, right? So you can do everything from your phone, from the car, from your computer, wherever you want to do it. You can do it. We had a lot of good participation this week.
Yes, 36 participants this week.
We almost at 40. We're trying to hit that 50 mark. So we're going to put it out there. We want to get about 50 people. And remember, hey, if you beat the dads, you can win a $20 Amazon gift card each week. And then at the end of the year, you're put in for a $100 gift card that we're going to draw out, and this week. And we'll announce the winner in a little while, which hurts my feelings to announce it, but we'll announce it anyway. But we'll announce the winner here after a while. But let's talk about a little bit about the beat the dads, and we got some. We had some weekly pickers that's going to be in. That's something we want to talk about as well. Myself, Jonathan, and Matt will always pick every week, but we also got Coach Gavin from the middle school, Coach Dyer from the high school, Coach Jackson from Gordonsville High School, Coach Shaw from Gordonsville Junior High, and then Shay Hale once again will be one of our weekly pickers. But we're going to have a weekly guest picker every week, and this week our weekly guest picker was Jeff Mason, mayor of Smith County. Jeff Mason's going there. He was our weekly picker this week, and we appreciate him sending in his picks. And honestly, he probably didn't do the best as he thought. I didn't do the best. And Jonathan, we'll talk about it. You did win the Beat the Dads as far as beating the dads, and as far as myself, Matt, and you and Matt, you went 9-1 on the week. So
I did.
Congratulations to you for having a good week. I tried to slot you, and I went back. I figured them up there. I kind of slotted you a game, but I go 5-5 on the week, and Matt goes 7-3. So I'm the low man on the totem pole this week.
Yeah, and it was really fun. Really, and which I thought 9-1 might be good enough to beat the contestants this week. Unfortunately, we had a contestant get all 10 games correct this week. So,
yeah, we had one contestant out of all. So it'd been 33 entries that entered the competition. We had one perfect entry. And it hurts my feelings to even say his name, and he'll get on here and say he's a Florida State fan. Florida State fans, we worry about them a little bit. But Danny Rose, congratulations, you won the Beat the Dads this week. We'll get your $20 gift card emailed out to you this week. So congratulations for going a perfect 10-0.
Yep.
He went 10-0, and everybody else, I think the closest had a couple of 9-1s.
9-1s.
Mm-hmm. But Danny Rose, you did go 10-0, so 10-0. So congratulations to you.
And part of the contest is if you do tie the dads, if you do go 9-1, you still win with a tie. The tie doesn't matter to us. So a tie for us is a loss. So again, we're going to submit it out there. We're going to have some more, of course, with the region matchups this week in the high school ranks. We'll have to pick up another couple of games to pick in the high school level, and we'll also have our Tennessee and Vandy picks as well, and then we'll get some more college games out there too. So just fun. Just thought this would be something that you guys might enjoy as viewers, and to say, hey, you beat the dads this week. So
yeah, which for me going 5-5 is not very hard to do. But
I'm gonna need you to step your game up.
We actually put it in our family group chat here, but with me and my wife and the kids in there. We see if they can beat the dad as well. And yeah, actually, my wife and my stepdaughter Bailey beat me this week. They beat me this week, and Ashton tied with me. And Kat, actually, I beat Kat. Kat was my daughter-in-law is the only one that I beat this week. So I feel bad that I couldn't beat my wife and pick them, and she did better than I did. But go 5-5, you're not going to beat me very many people. I need to start picking with my head more than my heart, apparently.
Well, and the thing of it is, we always talk about it, that week 1 to week 2 adjustment. What are you going to make on that week 2 adjustment?
Where's my week 2 adjustment here?
Are you going to beat Bridget next week? Is she going to come out and hammer you again? I mean,
I'd say she'll probably hammer me again. But once again, congratulations, Danny Rose, for winning our first ever, I guess it's the inaugural Beat the Dads Pick'em segment here. So congratulations, Danny Rose. We'll get that out to you this week, and we will submit the newest picks tomorrow. We'll put it out there. And once again, it ends Friday morning at 10 a.m. We won't take anything after Friday morning at 10 a.m. for that $20 gift card to Amazon, right? So we look around and you're like, do we want to do it local? But everybody uses Amazon, right? So Amazon's just the easiest way. And we'll do something for the $100 gift card at the end of the year, maybe something a little bit different. But we appreciate all the participation. We got all 36 of you guys that actually submitted a form this week. We look forward to you 36 doing it again and then add some more on top of it. We're trying to get to that 50 a week mark if we can do that. So if you can, please share that out when we share it. Get your family to do it. The more the merrier.
Yep. The more the merrier. And Michael, before we leave, I'll touch on a few college scores before we leave. Of course, you were talking about Vandy on West End. Clark Lee's got those boys playing hard. They beat South Carolina 31-7. Of course, Georgia beats Tennessee 44-41. MTSU with a big 14-13 win over Nevada. Maryville College, which still has Bryce Curry, they beat Ohio Wesleyan 48-24, and Cumberland University beat Ave Maria College out of Florida 55-7. So that's just a couple of local scores.
And if you look, if I'm mistaken, Javier Gaspar, who also for Smith County plays at Maryville College as well.
That's correct. Yes.
Facebook.
Yes.
But I also want to talk about Tennessee Tech is 3-0. Tennessee Tech won 72-14 or something this week, and they said it was the best start that Tennessee Tech has had since like 1970 something.
Did they play this week? I didn't see their score this week.
Yeah, I think they won like 72-14 if I'm not mistaken. But it's the first 3-0 start they've had since like 1970. So kudos to the local programs there that are winning games and those guys that are still playing college from around here.
Yes.
It's keep going, guys. Keep doing what you can do.
Yeah, Tennessee Tech 72-14 win over Davidson. So yeah, that's that I knew and have heard from different ones that their program is off to a great start. So congratulations to them and a lot of local kids that play on these. I try to grab some of the college teams that we know that we have kids that around the area that play on.
Yep. And, once again, before we get off, we'll thank our sponsors. We'll thank Kobe McKinney with Underwood Realty, who is our title sponsor this year. Once again, #Hollies and be the gift for our Player of the Week segment. And then if any promotions for our backdrops and our apparel and our tablecloth that we use here on the show. Appreciate all those sponsors. And guys, we're still looking for sponsors. If you want to sponsor a segment on Dugout Dads, you're more than welcome to. We'll put it out there. You reach out to myself, Jonathan, or Matthew. We'll get you what you need to be a sponsor. We'll take sponsors for the Beat the Dad segment. Our coaches segment. We'll take sponsors for pretty much anything and everything that you might want to sponsor.
Absolutely. If you want to reach out and help us out, we cost of doing business. We're not trying to make any money at this, but we still have expenses. So again, this is not a money making thing for us. We enjoy the heck out of it. We enjoy having these kids on, which we will be having our student segment pretty soon. It's football season. We kind of got jumped off a little late with this, but we will be having our student section here pretty soon in the next few weeks. So
we'll give the coaches a night off. We'll have our player segment, and all players come in from different sports and talk on the show as well. But once again, we thank all the viewers tonight. I think we got up to quite a few viewers. I was looking here. We got up to quite a few viewers tonight. We appreciate everybody come on. And when you listen, we appreciate that. Any feedback you can give, we've been more than happy to take feedback. We'll take whatever we can get to make the show better for everybody that listens and watches. So from the Dugout Dads, where our skills are questionable,
but our spirit is unstoppable.
Until next time.